I came to the Alexander dynasty for a political marriage. My family is just a tribe, known for its bravery and combat skills on the grasslands. The young king here loves to wage wars. They said offering the most beautiful woman from our tribe could ensure my father's safety and the tribe's peace.
Daughter, only your status and appearance can guarantee the safety of our entire family.
I had no choice but to agree, even though it meant betraying the man I loved. Our wedding date was set, and the red headband was tied. In our tribe, if a man and a woman have feelings for each other, they wear a red headband to signal that they are taken, so others won't approach them. But I was the one chosen.
Remember when I took you to the bustling city of Northland? It's in the north, but they say the south is warmer and more prosperous.
Later, Emperor Edward treated me well, visiting me daily and showing concern. But it's been 3 years since I left home. I often miss the yellow sands of the northern desert, stretching endlessly. The stars in the night sky seemed so close, bright, and profound. I think of my little horse, running freely on the vast plains. How carefree those days were. Unlike now, when I first arrived, I had to follow Margaret to learn the etiquette of the Alexander dynasty. If I didn't learn well, I would be scolded when I met Queen Victoria and the other women of King Charles. I don't understand why King Charles has so many concubines. Including Queen Victoria and myself, there are 5 of us. In our homeland, it's always one man and one woman. My father is also a king of a small tribe, but at least he doesn't seem as absurd as this emperor. What do I find absurd? For example, he spends a few days at Queen Victoria's Wayang Palace, then a few days at Sophia's Green Willow Palace, then at Isabella's Dark Palace, and then at Olivia's Watermoon Palace, and finally, he comes to me, the new beauty in the palace. This cycle takes about a month.
This is called equal distribution of favor.
At that time, I wasn't familiar with their culture. I even made a joke.
No, my name doesn't mean Mother of Autumn. It's just a name.
I didn't understand the meaning or writing of equal distribution of favor. I remember the first 3 months were peaceful. He didn't come, and the palace maids were anxious, fearing neglect from the palace. Sophia came to see me twice, probably to cause trouble, but I managed to send her away without much fuss. By the 4th month, he came, and things were no longer peaceful. The small room suddenly became chaotic, with people bathing and dressing me, and preparing food, as if welcoming an important festival or person. They were all excited, but I didn't feel the same. I only thought about how to make sure he wouldn't come again. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have had to marry far away to this place. After bathing, I insisted on wearing plain white clothes, even though they said the king didn't like white. I sat at the small table, looking at the dishes. They seemed more nourishing than the large chunks of meat in the tribe. Before he arrived, I took a bite. It wasn't very tasty, lacking the flavor of meat. I missed the big chunks of meat and the strong liquor from home. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but swallow.
Has no one taught you etiquette?
They have. I said, lowering my head, feeling like I had done something wrong.
Raise your head.
I was startled. When he came to the tribe, I was out fighting. When I returned, my face was splattered with. I only saw him from a distance. He didn't see me clearly. So he didn't know what I looked like. If he saw my true face now. As the sky darkened and the lights brightened, he suddenly stood before me, gripping my chin, forcing me to look at him. Only then did I realize why he chose me. Wasn't he the one I saved when I ambushed the enemy? He was dressed in plain clothes then. How could I have known he was from the Alexander dynasty?
I should thank you for saving me, he said with a hint of a smile.
I turned my head, breaking free from his grip. Saving you was just a coincidence. How could I have known who you were? I only dragged you behind my horse for a while, and you hold a grudge for so long, seeking revenge and biting me. I don't understand your customs, I said, feeling more aggrieved, and your concubines, always flaunting their power, constantly causing trouble for me.
As my woman, you can't be weak. If you can trouble me, can't you handle those women? Besides, if you agree now, I might get bored and stop coming.
I thought I should remain chaste, hoping that one day Matthew would come. I knew the distance was vast, but I had no choice. Perhaps it wasn't exactly a diplomatic marriage, more like a forceful taking. At that time, I had no idea and didn't want to have much interaction with the ruler of this kingdom. Later, he came every day, showering me with favor, making the other women in the palace envious and resentful. Yet, only I knew the truth. Each night, he would quietly have dinner and then lie down to sleep, doing nothing out of the ordinary.
Why do you stay here every day?
Don't you feel my kindness towards you?
Inwardly, I scoffed.
Kindness? It's like the saying, the higher the tree, the more the wind.
Outwardly, I smiled and said,
Of course, it's good. But what exactly does your majesty want? Rain.
At that moment, I couldn't remember the rest.
Equal distribution of favor.
Then he began to undress, standing there with a somewhat roguish demeanor.
If you don't agree to consummate our relationship, I'll stay here every day until you do.
Can't you stop being so petty? Just because I dragged you behind my horse for a bit, you hold a grudge for so long, seeking revenge and biting me. I really don't understand your customs. And your concubines, always flaunting their power, constantly finding ways to trouble me.
I poured out all my grievances from the past 3 months of favor. Alexander just looked at me with a hint of amusement.
As my woman, you shouldn't be weak. If you can handle me, can't you deal with those women? Besides, if you agree now, I might get bored and stop coming.
I thought it best to remain virtuous, waiting for the day when Matthew might come. Though I knew deep down that the distance was insurmountable, I couldn't help but hope. Alexander's eyes narrowed with a smile. I should thank you for saving me, he said sinisterly.
Saving you was just a coincidence. How could I have known who you were? I only dragged you behind my horse for a while, and you hold a grudge for so long, seeking revenge and biting me. I don't understand your customs.
I turned my head, breaking free from his grip, knowing why he was angry. I couldn't say I wished he had perished. Margaret said not to contradict the king. If he accused me of disrespect, it would implicate everyone in my palace.
And your concubines, always flaunting their power, constantly causing trouble for me.
Alexander looked at me with amusement.
As my woman, you can't be weak. If you can trouble me, can't you handle those women? Besides, if you agree now, I might get bored and stop coming.
I thought I should remain chaste, hoping that one day Matthew would come. I knew the distance was vast, but I had no choice. Alexander's eyes narrowed with a smile.
I should thank you for saving me.
I turned my head, breaking free from his grip, knowing why he was angry. I couldn't say I wished he had perished. Margaret had warned me not to contradict the king.
Saving you was just a coincidence. How could I have known who you were? I only dragged you behind my horse for a while, and you hold a grudge for so long, seeking revenge and biting me. I don't understand your customs. And your concubines, always flaunting their power, constantly causing trouble for me.
Alexander looked at me with amusement.
As my woman, you can't be weak. If you can trouble me, can't you handle those women? Besides, if you agree now, I might get bored and stop coming.
I thought I should remain chaste, hoping that one day Matthew would come. I knew the distance was vast, but I had no choice. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes. They hurt a bit, but mostly I felt wronged. When Charles left, he glanced at me but said nothing, probably quite displeased. Or perhaps, having gotten what he wanted, he no longer found it interesting. This left me feeling somewhat empty inside. Early in the morning, one of Charles's attendants came to deliver a message. First, there was an edict elevating me to the status of a lady. I didn't quite understand why I was suddenly promoted.
Charles said that Lady Sophia has the support of her maternal family, which, though distant, is highly valued by him. If you were to be wronged, it would be difficult to explain to your family. So, Lady Sophia, you should consider your actions carefully.
I listened, feeling unsure whether this was good or bad news.
Congratulations, Lady Sophia. Charles favors you and has elevated your status. You no longer need to worry about Queen Victoria's attitude. With your maternal family's support, Charles won't mistreat you.
Oh, that sounds more reasonable.
What?
Oh, nothing. I can go to bed early tonight.
Lady Sophia, aren't you waiting for Charles?
Why should I wait for him?
Charles sent word that he will visit tonight.
I collapsed backward with a scream, nearly fainting.
Lady Sophia, this is good news. We won't be bullied anymore.
Margaret, when will this end?
Let me help you freshen up.
I won't wash. If he doesn't like it, he can leave.
Oh dear. That's a serious offense. You can't say such things.
Despite her words, she still forced me to get up. To be fair, aside from sharing a bed, he hadn't forced me to do anything else. He didn't talk much either, probably still angry. I turned away, tears streaming down my face again. Why? I seemed to be the one most wronged. He had already gotten what he wanted. Did he still need to question whether I was willing? Alexander's eyes narrowed with a smile.
I should thank you for saving me.
I turned my head, breaking free from his grip, knowing why he was angry.
Saving you was just a coincidence. How could I have known who you were? I only dragged you behind my horse for a while, and you hold a grudge for so long, seeking revenge and biting me. I don't understand your customs. And your concubines, always flaunting their power, constantly causing trouble for me.
Alexander looked at me with amusement.
As my woman, you can't be weak. If you can trouble me, can't you handle those women? Besides, if you agree now, I might get bored and stop coming.
I thought I should remain chaste, hoping that one day Matthew would come. I knew the distance was vast, but I had no choice. Alexander's eyes narrowed with a smile.
I should thank you for saving me.
I turned my head, breaking free from his grip, knowing why he was angry. I couldn't say I wished he had perished. Margaret had warned me not to contradict the king. If he accused me of disrespect, it would implicate everyone in my palace.
Saving you was just a coincidence. How could I have known who you were? I only dragged you behind my horse for a while, and you hold a grudge for so long, seeking revenge and biting me. I don't understand your customs. And your concubines, always flaunting their power, constantly causing trouble for me.
I poured out all my grievances from the 3 months of neglect. Alexander looked at me with amusement.
As my woman, you can't be weak. If you can trouble me, can't you handle those women? Besides, if you agree now, I might get bored and stop coming.
I thought I should remain chaste, hoping that one day Matthew would come. I knew the distance was vast, but I had no choice. The next night, there was no moonlight, only flickering candlelight, and the darkness was unsettling. He had returned. He merely glanced at me, sitting silently by my side for a long time without speaking.
I was only gone for a few days, and you've let yourself become like this.
My heart ached as if I couldn't breathe, and I coldly looked at him.
Has the Jianghe tribe been wiped out?
He said nothing. Tears flowed uncontrollably from the corners of my eyes.
Was it related to you?
He remained silent.
And what about Matthew?
He looked at me with a slight surprise.
Did you give the order?
Who told you?
His deep voice was stern, but I understood that this matter was likely true.
Alexander. You only favored me to make my maternal clan lower their guard? So when I had our child, you weren't happy. What did I do to offend you, that you would treat the Jianghe tribe this way?
It's not what you think.
Then what is it?
I stood up to question him. He also stood up and supported me.
You still have our child. I will give you an explanation for this.
What explanation? Alexander. I just want you to say yes or no.
Alexander opened his mouth, and after a long pause, he said,
No.
My heart felt as if it was being cut with a knife.
Then why did you hesitate? Tell me.
I approached him. I was certain he would retreat, certain that the destruction of the Jianghe tribe was related to him. I wouldn't want our child. I wouldn't. Suddenly, a sharp pain struck my abdomen, causing me to fall to the ground.
Emma!
I heard the panic in his voice. I wanted to laugh. Why did he hide such things from me? Was it really because the Jianghe tribe had merits? Perhaps Charles had long decided to eliminate them due to instability at the border. 3 months later, the maple leaves of late autumn fell. I stood on the palace wall. Tears fell unintentionally. I remembered the vast maple forest in the Jianghe tribe. I said I wanted to leave the palace to see it. He agreed. I never expected that this would be the first step towards our farewell. The long wind lifted my cloak, making it a bit cold. I stood under the maple trees, recalling my first encounter with Matthew. But now, as I walked down this street, with the long stretch of red maples, I seemed to see that moonlit boy in white at the end. He turned and smiled at me. He didn't speak, just took me away. Of course, we hadn't left the city of Edward before being stopped by soldiers. Smoke and fire filled the air, the intense flames stinging my eyes. It was said that Charles lit the beacons 3 times, summoning the army from 1,000 miles away. At that time, the city was surrounded by many troops. I saw those wrapped in fur and felt a sense of familiarity. On the other side were the black armored soldiers. Matthew and I spent 3 days together. He smiled as he always did, but I knew my Matthew was gone, and we could never go back. Never.
Come with me.
His fair hand reached out to me, smiling.
I won't go with you.
I wanted to blame him. It's been almost 3 years. Why did you come so late? But it was too late. In the past, I would have placed my hand in his, smiling at him with my little white teeth, like a crescent moon, with the autumn wind rustling the red maple leaves, and it would have been just us. Separated by time and space, it was too late. In the end, the Jianghe tribe was defeated. I didn't want either side to win. My final fate, there was probably only one outcome. In the chaos, amidst the smoke, Alexander saw me at a glance. He was eager to explain something. But I didn't want to listen. Matthew, my Matthew, rebelled and passed away in front of me. I never thought that leaving the palace once would lead to so much trouble. I thought about the man in front of me, whom I had only been with for 3 years. He wasn't particularly kind to me, yet this affection grew so quickly. Back in the palace, Victoria, probably because of me and because of her family's collusion with foreign tribes, was sentenced along with her entire family, without exception. I had no mind to care about these things. As the year turned, rumors began to spread. They said I spent 3 days with the rebel, and being from the Jianghe tribe, they doubted my purity. Charles angrily rebuked everyone in court. He quelled the rumors. He insisted on making me the queen. That grand and splendid celebration, he said, would wait until his triumphant return. I just smiled and said nothing. After staying in the palace for a month, he led the army himself to conquer foreign lands and bring peace to the world. He probably didn't know that I had been waiting for him all along. The day Alexander left, he asked if I wanted to go with him.
Do you want to come with me?
The king has his reasons for what he does. Why take me as a burden?
In truth, I was deeply saddened, but I still pretended to be strong. I couldn't get over it myself. I understood that if it weren't for me leading people, triggering the war between Edward and Jianghe, if it weren't for me later offending Alexander, attracting his attention, how could all this have happened? If it weren't for my incompetence, if it weren't for me, how could it have come to this? If it weren't for me, how could our only child have passed away? If it weren't for me, how could Matthew have chosen to rebel? They all left, leaving me alone to deal with the world's rumors? It's been 3 years, and the spring snow has fallen in Edward. He had only been gone for half a year, and I thought a lot. I wanted to wait to see if he would come back. But he probably didn't know the prophecy of the national teacher, saying I was a cursed queen, unfaithful and impure. I stood by the window, unable to hold back my tears, falling on the back of my hand, colder than the wind and snow outside. At this moment, your people, your ministers, everyone says I am a cursed queen. I don't think I can wait for you to come back. The heavy snow and wind were bleak, fluttering silently. At that moment, the snow piled up in front of the door like a smooth little hill, reminding me of the small hill under the moonlight in the Jianghe tribe. Like a moon plate, it seemed so close to me, as big as the bullseye of an archery target. Illuminating the hill brightly, with a mix of light and dark, it didn't make people feel afraid. At this moment, even a sliver of moonlight could light up the inside and outside of the hall. Why not follow Alexander and go back to take a look? I was afraid of seeing the wind and sand, separated by time and space, the broken rainbow like blood, seeing the white bones blown open by the wind and sand. Unrecognizable, no face to see. I was tired, I couldn't wait for you anymore. I couldn't hold on tightly, I had to let go. My fingertips slowly lowered. Would you blame me? In the end, everything would return to this land.